This conference
Attendance
will now be recorded.
And a quorum is present. Ray, would you like to begin by introducing us to the new intern?
Yeah, we have an intern. Actually, he has been with us for a couple months, but because his class schedule, he hasn't been able to join our meeting. Haraj Rahi, going school at IW in Northwestern, is a junior. His major, I'll let him explain a bit, unconventional to the planning world, but we can definitely use the skills and the mindset and all the knowledge. So you want to say a few words?
Yeah, my name is Hirat Rahi, and as you mentioned, I'm a junior, and I'm in double major computer science and computer science, which is kind of far from planning, but I had experience of working on GIS mapping and stuff, so that's how I got along with all this. And then I started working from last October 28th, I guess, and I've been helping with researching on different stuff, analyzing the different data, and also currently I'm working on some dashboards with data. So.
Yeah, with the AI and technology, we can definitely use people with the skills and background, and unfortunately, because his class schedule, and everything, we have mentioned and recognized him and introduced you to him and vice versa earlier.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here.
Welcome.
Okay. Ray, is there anyone from the public who wishes to come to the commission?
We have not received any requests, so we don't.
All right, with that, we'll move to the consent agenda. Does any member wish to remove an item from the consent agenda for separate discussion tonight? Is there a motion to enact and adopt the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. All right, the motion passes. Okay, next we'll move to the regular agenda. This is the authorization for the chairperson to execute a professional consulting agreement for population projection services for the McLean County Metropolitan Transportation Plan 2055 project. A memo, draft agreement, and proposed scope of work was provided to all members of the commission in your packet. The total cost estimate is $3,675 for this agreement. Ray, before we discuss our vote, is there anything you'd like to say about the proposed amendment or the scope of work, Chris?
Sure, thank you. Every 5 years, we're supposed to do a 5-year update to the federal government in terms of our long-range transportation plan. And they have renamed it as Metropolitan Transportation Plan. And so the last one was done in 2022. If you recall, if you were here. And then the next one is still 2027 by September of 2027. So as you can imagine, as part of the long-range transportation plan, population projection is a important and basic. Whoever needs it, anybody. Is an important component of the long-range transportation plan because the planning horizon looks down to 2055, like 30 years later. The last one, when we did the 2022 plan, it was looking to 2050. And so transportation is complicated and everything. And so airport, from air to roads, we don't have rivers, we don't have the maritime, but with trucks and vehicles, passenger vehicles and whatnot. So population projection is an important component. So in 2022, we did have a consultant. It's the same consultants that are being considered for conducting the project, the population projection studies in the surface as part of the overall metropolitan transportation plan effort. So the agreement in front of you is basically the same as the one that the Planning Commission approved in 2022 with minor adjustments in the fees and also the planning horizon. The legal counsel, they have reviewed of the county, they have reviewed the draft agreement. There's no issues and for us to proceed with it. So if approved by the planning commission, today, our chairman will be authorized to execute the agreement, and then the project will kick off soon. I just want to note that Dr. Greeny, the consultant with this agreement, is online, joining us virtually. His day job is with the Urban and Regional Planning Department in UIUC, but this is kind of his side thing, with as a consultancy. So if any questions, or either Dr. Greeny or I'll try to answer questions.
All right, I'll just confirm one more time. Any questions for Ray and Dr. Greenlee? Thank you for joining us virtually.
Absolutely, my pleasure.
I guess I'm trying to understand the purpose of how would the parameters of a population study for transportation differ from like the work that you did with the land use projections, or like the work that I shared with you where Unit 5 did some population projections for had a consultant do for enrollment planning. Like how do those, they have different outcomes or different goals of why you're studying the population, but still help me understand, like what are the similarities and differences between those types of things?
Yeah, as you point out, the long-range transportation plan and also the regional comprehensive plan, just using those as two examples. Transportation, if you look at it, actually is one of the plan elements or components of regional comprehensive plan, because the regional comprehensive plan is looking at land uses, looking at transportation, infrastructure, community facilities, natural resources, educational facilities, utilities, a lot of different elements, and transportation is just one of the elements to be looked at. And when we look at a planning horizon, like 20 years, 30 years, they do projections. So actually the results for this NPP, for the transportation plan, the population projection actually could be used or could be considered when we continue to work on the regional comprehensive plans, because it's looking down the road, right? The population, 20 years, 30 years, and so that's that kind of relationship. So whether it applies to the school enrollment or even parks and recreation, and they're looking, okay, is it planning for a growing population or stable or decrease? So that can fit in, but then it depending on certain assumptions. Certain studies might have certain focuses than the others. So that might be the difference. But then in terms of methodologies, a lot of times they're pretty similar. And I don't know if Dr. Greeny, you have anything you want to add, or you can turn the sound up a little bit.
Sure, Ray. I think you encapsulated it really well. I think some of it is really where the focal point is. So, for instance, taking a look at that, the recent projections for the school district, there is in particular a focus on the age cohorts that are individuals who are likely having kids who would then ultimately enroll in the schools. Where clearly with a regional transportation plan, the focus is going to be a little bit more generally around the sources of transportation demand throughout the region. So really, some of it's just about which demographic and other characteristics are we focused on, given the focus of how that information is going to be used to inform decision making.
So that's why maybe the recommend information could be different, because there's slightly different parameters that you're looking at kids for Unit 5 versus
the whole population of the county,
or movement about the county.
Yeah, businesses, new employers, and who's and kind of looking at the whole geography of the county versus like maybe certain school area, things like that.
I'm just trying to understand.
No, it's good question.
Any other questions for Ray or Dr. Greenlee? All right, is there a motion to authorize execution of the professional consulting agreement with Population Projection Services?
So moved.
Second,
Second.
it has been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion before we vote? We will proceed to vote. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion is carried. All right. So now we move to our items for information and discussion. We have quite a few. So first, we're going to have our rescheduled presentation from the McLean County Mayors Association. We have the mayors from Lexington and Cooksville with us tonight. Ray, would you like to provide a brief introduction or have them introduce themselves?
Yeah, of course. Mayor Johansson, who's the chair of the McLean County Mayors Association, and we have, correct me, 22 communities within McLean County, different sizes, and Mayor Johansson's really the one growing, the growth, but then also we have Mayor Cooksville with us, begging Mayor Johansson up in the most support, but really appreciate him for coming. They meet like quarterly, but there's still more information I'm sure we can learn from. And as for the Regional Planning Commission, I've mentioned before, we don't just look at this urban area, right? We don't just plan for the city and the town, that geography. We need to look at McLean County as a whole. And so one of the purposes that we have invited Mayor Johansson to give a presentation, a better understanding, also on the rural side. I mean, because he works closely with the other mayors in the rural communities, different sizes. So we're just so glad that he squeezed time for us because it's very busy and a lot of things to take care of. But appreciate for coming and educate us about the rural side of McLean County.
I'm not really that busy, so I don't want to. So thanks for having me today. And I want to highlight Kathy Weber's here today. She is president of Cooksville. And I think she's here just to make sure I showed up, just to kind of back me up a little bit. First of all, I'm not a speech person. I don't like to give speeches. I like to talk from the heart. And when we talk about the Mayors Association and McLean County and Lexington, some of you that know me know that's where this comes from. So I want to thank you guys for having me today. Before we talk about where we're at and where we're going with the Mayors Association, I want to kind of fill you in a little bit about the history of it. First of all, a little bit about me. I've been mayor. I'm starting my third term, and I had to check with Kathy today to see how long I've been chairman of the Mayors Association. I'm on 6 years now. And prior to that, I was 20 years as chief of police in Lexington and 4 years on the city council. So Lexington will get tired of me one of these days, and you'll never see me again. I'll probably disappear someplace. But the McLean County Mayors Association was founded in the early 90s by our former Lexington mayor, Frank Feigl. Frank had this vision that if he could get the mayors in a room together and discuss the same problems we have from town to town, and it would benefit the communities and McLean County. And I think it's proven that has worked. So McLean County is unique. We're home to Bloomington Normal and smaller communities with long-standing foundations. While our towns differ in size and budget and challenges, we're united by something much more than shared, and that is the common goal of serving the citizens. Why our association matters, and these are some questions that I ask myself. And we exist because none of us should be doing this alone. None of these communities should be trying to handle the problems of infrastructure, budgets, and stuff alone. And by getting together in the room and discussing these problems, and we've come up with a lot of solutions that help the other communities that we just don't think of. And I think when those struggles hit us, it's nothing for me to pick up the phone and call Kathy, call Larry Dodge over in Colfax, the mayor over there, and say, hey, how would you handle this? Or how do you recommend we handle this? And that has helped us quite a bit. Every community in McLean County, no matter how big or small, contributes to the success of Bloomington Normal and McLean County. And that's one thing I think Kathy and I were talking before I got here, and I'm not patting myself on the back, but I think when I took over with the McLean County Mayor's Association, we had this us against them, rural communities against Bloomington Normal. We have turned that, I think we have turned that around, and it's more of a team effort now. And as I said, what's good for Lexington benefits McLean County. I mean, majority of my people in Lexington grocery shop in Bloomington Normal. We have a grocery store, but they support that, but they also they buy their cars. We have one car dealership, but most of them buy their cars in Bloomington Normal. And same way with the out communities. I guess my goal as chairman is it's a simple thing to bring everybody together and find solutions for the problem. And we all face the same problems. I remember when I was a cop, people would say, when I was chief of police in Lexington, people would say, Lexington doesn't have the crime that Bloomington Normal has. And they're absolutely right. We have it, but it's a smaller scale. And that's just the way it is as mayor and as leaders of these communities. We have the same problems the big cities have, but we're at a smaller scale. The disadvantage we have, I think, is the fact that we don't have a team of grant writers on board. We don't have a team of attorneys on board. So when the easy solution for some of the politicians, and I'm not a politician, so I'll throw that out, is, well, there's grants out there. Well, that's right. So there are grants, but who do we get to write them? And when the grants stacks or that much paperwork involved, it wears you out. So we have to figure out how we're going to do that. We talked about, the Mayor's Association having one grant writer for everybody, but chances are we're in competition for that particular grant. So that's not going to work. So Raymond asked me to kind of address some of the concerns that I have as mayor of Lexington and for the rest of the mayors. And my wife likes to call me the things that keep me up at night, because it's funny, when I was a police officer, if I was working a case, I'd wake up in the middle of the night and think of something I'm working and turn the light on, write a note. She'd get so mad at me, and I do that now. And so I guess, there's times she said, why don't you just go sleep in the other room, And the thing that I struggle with in Lexington, and we've got this housing crisis in all over the country, but we're noticing it in McLean County, in central Illinois, and that is the cost of new construction. And we've got a new subdivision going, and it's a slow start. We've had some hiccups with Hammer and Corn Belt. I'm not going to get into that, but the average cost is $200 to $250 a square foot to build a new house. The average 3-bedroom, three bath house is about 2,000 square feet. So that's around $450,000 for a home. So you add a lot on there. You add property taxes, you add your utilities, and you're talking up to $3,625 a month mortgage. How does a family that according to my figures, and I might be wrong, the average household income is $122,000 a year in McLean County? How do we face that? And infrastructure, we've got a big expansion announcement I'm going to be announcing probably in the next couple of weeks for a company that's going out next to Bird through Bedford. We have to put the road in there. The prices for the road is let me make sure my notes are right. $866.08 a foot for the road in. And how do you do that? And I've got a lot up on Main Street that I've been trying to get a person, and he's very interested in putting up a building with 2 retail stores below and an apartment upstairs. But at $250 a square foot to build that, what's he gonna have to charge for rent to get his money back? Now, I bring that up, not that I'm complaining, but that's why you guys are here, and that's why I'm glad we're invited, because this is a problem we all need to figure out a solution to. And if I had a solution, I probably wouldn't be standing here. I'd be in the governor's office or higher up. No, I wouldn't do that. But so those are the things that I concern myself about, and I do lose sleep at night over some of this, because we put a gamble in on this subdivision. The developers got a lot of money tied in that, and we need to build houses out there, and they need to be affordable housing. And you got to be careful in McLean County when you say affordable housing, because it scares people and they walk away from it because they don't know what that is, and I don't know what it is. When we first started talking about a subdivision, we were hoping to keep the cost down to the 325 to 375 range. That was before COVID. That's not possible now. I mean, and it's too bad it's not. And I don't know how to do that. I don't know what the answer is. So I don't want to keep a whole lot of your time again. I'm not complaining. I'm just saying that, you know, that we've worked together, and I really want to thank Raymond for coming to our meetings and keeping us involved, because it is a team effort. And I think always working together, we may not have an easy solution, but we can come up with some answers to this. So that's all I've got. Anybody got any questions for me?
I'd like to pick up on something you said in your opening remarks about sort of like the us against them. When you're speaking about the rural communities in McLean County, do you have any advice for the commissioners and the staff members that would like to engage more with the rural communities in McLean County? For instance, when we do surveys and things, like how do we get better response?
Can I be frank?
Yes, please.
Absolutely, from the Mayor's Association sit on the committee. I was involved in it. And I think that voice from somebody, and I don't want to be the guy, but that voice needs to come from what we know. I know Lexington better than anybody in this room. And I'm not bragging, but I've lived there all my life. And Kathy knows Cooksville better than anybody in this room. And those are the kind of feedback you need to hear, not just over an email. And Raymond, I'm not, doing what I'm saying. Not over an email saying, hey, we're doing this, you want to chime in on it. Why not have us there at the table when we start from day one through the whole process? Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
Okay.
Besides housing, is there any other issues that you've got?
The cost of just doing business. I mean, I don't want to be the mayor to raise property taxes, and my goal has always been to bring more retail businesses in, keep property taxes down. But let's face it, the cost of buying equipment, the cost of manpower, and you and I have had this discussion. I think you're going to see these smaller communities start hiring one water superintendent, one sewer superintendent to run all the towns. We can't afford the salaries that it takes to maintain that, and without raising taxes. And as we move forward, equipment's going up. We have aging equipment. I've got an aging staff. With the city, we go to replace those, and the salaries that these young people demand, we got to figure out how we're going to do it. So yeah, that is probably a concern as well. I'm confident the housing thing will work out. I'm confident we'll build new houses there. I'd rather have them sooner than later, and I'm confident this company that's going to build this new building, I'm 99% sure it's going to happen. So we just, but long term, yeah, those things, how do we keep things going? Thanks. Okay. All right. I appreciate your time. Again, Raymond, thanks for including us. Thanks for coming to our meeting.
No problem. Yeah, thank you so much for coming. Good to see you.
Mayor Weber, anything else to add?
No, I think you summed it up very, very well. We love it when Raymond comes and keeps us informed on what you're doing. And I think the mutual exchange of information is key. And by having someone sit on your board, that also puts the responsibility back on us to send someone to sit on your board and to be a participant, not just say, we want a voice and then nobody shows up. So that's another reason why I came with Spencer, is because we are interested. So.
And when I said that, us against them, I think that stems back in the day. I don't know, 5 years ago. I don't know if Raymond, you were here. I don't know if anybody thought about reaching out to the small communities, and I think that has come a long way. And I think by having somebody sit at these meetings, they can go back and report to the mayors, rather be, over a cup of coffee or beer or something, say, hey, this is what we're doing. This is how we need to progress it. It helps us a little bit, and doesn't catch us off guard when an email comes and say, hey, I need this information, So yeah.
Well, with that, we'll move on to our other
Okay,
discussion
that's fine.
items. There may be some things of interest there
Yeah.
for both of you. So Ray, would you like to give us an update on the housing coordinator position?
Sure, yeah. We have completed and submitted our first quarterly report to DCO, Department of the State, Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity, and then they have approved our first quality report. That's good. And so also we are finalizing the RFP, request for proposal, and we're hoping to get that out maybe next week or something, so that we can have applicants to file the application, do the recruitment and the interviews and things like that. So yeah, so starting kind of working more closely with DCO since we now have the grant agreement in place. So we'll keep you.
Next, we have the Regional Housing Initiatives update.
Good afternoon, everyone. So for RHI updates, first we shared the January housing staff meeting a few weeks ago, and then later this month we'll have the February housing staff meeting. Then we've also submitted the third quarter report, the CDBG third quarter report to the town, and we'll be working on the third quarter report for the city within the next few days. And also the new 2024 ACS 5-year estimate data is now out. And so among other projects that will need the ACS data for, we can now work on the area median income white paper, as well as updating the McLean County housing dashboard. Speaking of median income, I heard you talk about the median income. And so for 2025, the area median income for the Bloomington MSA is $118,800. And then some highlights from the new ACS data. The 2024 data estimates that McLean County has a population of 171,556, which is 0.4% higher than 2023 numbers. And also for median gross rent, 2024 estimates that McLean County has a median gross rent of $1,009, which is 1.7% higher than 2023 numbers, $992. Moving on, at the end of this month, we'll be attending the Illinois Affordable Housing Forum hosted by the Illinois Housing Council in Chicago. Then other housing updates. We attended the Housing Coalition and Unhoused Task Force meetings, and according to Home Sweet Home Ministries, people have started moving into the bridge on January 19th, one day, and all 56 beds are accounted for, and all units are occupied except for one with heating issues, but that was last week, so I'm not sure if they already fixed that by this time. And because of the bridge, 2 encampments within Bloomington Normal are virtually empty, which is good. And also last week, January 29th, the Central Illinois Continuum of Care, or CICOC, held the 2026 point-in-time count. Around 50 volunteers participated, and I haven't heard any bad news about it, so I'm assuming it went well. Those are the updates that I have. Do we have any questions?
Questions for Luke? Thank you so much. All right, next is Jennifer with the HSTP update.
Make more sense than to sit in the back. So moving on to our weekly, monthly aggregation of information about our HSTP coordination program. We are still in a situation that we heard about at the beginning of last month, where we do not currently have a rural public transit service provider for Iroquois County, following the dissolution of Chris Rural Mass Transit on January 2nd. We hope to hear more from IDOT sometime soon, because we don't have a solution there yet. We are in the process of organizing in-person meetings with county board officials and other elected officials from the 5 counties of our region: Ford, Iroquois, Kankakee, Livingston, and of course McLean, before the next quarterly meeting, which is scheduled for March 16th. So we have some traveling to do. We are, as the coordinating agency for Region 6 HSTP, and pursuant to our agreement with IDOT on that topic, we are currently doing a series of things that contribute to implementing the existing plan and making some changes. So updating and implementing the current Region 6 plan to revise outdated portions of the plan, including but not limited to status of the service providers, CF Iroquois County. Updating demographic data, as several of you have mentioned, we have the new census ACS data up through 24. So we are hoping to be able to incorporate a lot of that new information into the description of the demographic features talked about in the plan. Adding information about new or proposed service providers, assuming we have such information available. And to make sure that we're including current status of and potential services in all 5 counties. We are revising the Region 6 bylaws, which have been in place too long, frankly, since we've had an opportunity to do this, and of course are also reflected in the current plan. So part of that update is to take to our membership in the March meeting revised bylaws pursuant to IDOT standards in our new agreement and get them approved so that we're up to speed on that. And then scheduling and conducting ongoing public outreach activities of various kinds and community contacts and surveys so that we can get the broadest awareness reachable to understand the program for the Region 6 coordination and the rural public transit and 5310, which is to say a section of the US Code, grant recipients who are serving primarily their own agency clients, but can also be available for other uses. So that's kind of where we are with those updates. And of course, in that process, we're preparing for the quarterly meeting of the regional committee on March 16th of this year. If there are any questions, I'd be happy. Yes, Carl.
I apologize for having fresh memory.
That's all right.
How does Iroquois County, how does that get replaced? Is that designated by the state, or is there a bid? Or do we hope someone's going to get entrepreneurial, or? I'm sorry, I don't remember.
You know, it's a complicated process. Ultimately, whoever is found that is willing to serve in Iroquois County with the kind of strictures that IDOT puts in place would have to be approved by IDOT. There'd be an agreement between IDOT and the provider, as well as between IDOT, the provider, and the county. So ultimately, all of this is based in county obligations to provide rural public transportation. And we don't know what's happening currently. As I said, it came as something of a shock when Chris shut down on January 2nd with like a day's notice. They actually held a special meeting of their board that morning. And then it was announced and they were out at that point. So I've talked to IDOT staff about this and, you know, asking that we be kept informed so that we have some idea what the prospects are. We get calls, we get questions. I would love to be able to answer them, but at this point, we don't know who's going to turn up. So one possibility, there are a couple of possibilities that involve extending service from one of the other counties. And I haven't heard a peep about how or if that's still in the offing, but we will hope to hear more. I'm regularly in meetings on this topic with IDOT staff. I did one this morning, they do it every other month. And I keep waiting to get a phone call or hear a comment in a meeting that says, oh, by the way, we figured this out. Hasn't happened yet. Yes, Carl.
Was that provider terminated or did it terminate its operation?
That's an interesting question because it's somewhere in the middle. Because information I've been given says that there had been some IDOT concern about their status and their performance starting as much as a year and a half ago.
IDOT or the county?
IDOT was essentially running an investigation or monitoring performance or something along those lines. And apparently we had word in the December Region 6 committee meeting that there were some current concerns about service in Iroquois, and that came from a county board member. And then literally 2 weeks later, there was this announcement saying, we're out, we're done, we're dissolving, which is about as definitive as it gets. And the understanding from the press releases and so on, that was a judgment. Well, the board of Chris decided that in the face of certain requirements coming from IDOT, that they could simply no longer continue operations as an economic question. They couldn't fund it. So that was that. Took place very quickly with, again, no warning to the riders, which is unfortunate. And since then, I've heard several people talk about potential solutions to that problem. And frankly, I don't know what their status with IDOT is at this point. So we hope to learn more.
Okay. And so far with the transition in McLean County, that seems to be moving along.
Yes, it's moving along. I think it got off to a somewhat slower start than Connect and Connect Go were expecting because this is a complicated type of service, and it's a bit of a leap for, staff and others at the board who have been doing urban transit to then weave into this slightly very different category of service. But they're hanging in there. Anybody? Thanks so much.
Ready, the Veterans Parkway Corridor Plan update.
Thank you. There are two reports that we have put on our website for this project, Veterans Parkway Corridor Plan. Some of you serve on the project steering committee. We appreciate your service. And the two reports are preliminary alternative analysis report, basically looking at how the roadways should be adjusted, changed, and different alternatives, different options out there, pavements, interchanges, intersections, that kind of thing. And so there's a report on that. If you don't have a lot of time, there's an executive summary also available. The other report is the phase 3 engagement report. If you recall back in last fall, there was some engagement activities so there was a report that was put together. It's on our website, so please feel free to take a look at that. So we are at the beginning of phase 4, which is the final phase of the project. And so we're moving along a lot of discussion, project steering committee and the consultants, as well as IDOT, and lots of different discussion meetings. So the project's supposed to be done by September of this year. So it's on target, on time and on budget. And the next meeting for the project steering committee is on the 13th of this month. It's Friday next week. So we'll keep you apprised. So we're entering into the last phase of the project. Thank you. Any questions?
What does the last phase entail?
Yeah, the last phase primarily is give out the different options, different alternatives to narrow it down to the preferred alternative. And then the consultants will have a draft report put together, and then that report will be made available to the public and for review and comment, and then for the committee to make a recommendation, and then also we'll bring it to the commission, see how all the timing works, but for your adoption. Yeah.
The Regional Comprehensive Plan updates.
Yeah, really quick. Since the last meeting, the MCRPC meeting, staff, we met with the county administration in terms of the proposed project process and also the timeline. And the county administration, they have had communication with some of the county board members who they're still, trying to we are still waiting for some feedback from them. So as soon as we hear something from all the discussion, we'll let you know. But we share some thoughts, staff's thoughts with the county administration. There's some more conversations with the county community.
And is that related to the prioritization of the different components since strategic land use is complete?
It's more for the overall, the rest of the planning process, and it's regarding, the different phases, we'll plan to do more engagements, or those takes time. And so this will be trying to finalize the process that we'll be looking at for the rest of the project, so we can be more specific, and then also, what phases we should go into, how much time to be devoted on which.
So when can we expect to see that sort of planning process workflow?
I definitely hope by next meeting. Yeah, definitely because while the staff you're working behind the scene in terms of the information. But yeah, we definitely love to give you an update or something definite.
Is it an item that goes before the county board for their approval, or are they just the county's administration staff that provides the?
It won't be the county board in terms of timeline, but there will be input. You'll be able to get some input from the county board members.
Okay.
But yeah, along the way, there'll be involvement and on the process. I mean, when we get to the more detailed, the different plan elements, definitely will have input. But right now, we're looking at, okay, where do we go from this point? Given the strategic land use plan was done, and then defer to the town and the city, whatever actions they decide to take. And so I want to get back into where we had been, before we got kind of sidetracked on the strategic land use plan, which was for good reasons. And so we kind of, okay, what's the rest of the planning process should look like?
And did the group did y'all as a staff do some just chatting about like what the reasons why some of that some of the action items on the strategic land use plan went off course, and are those kind of being addressed and corrected in the planning process for the comprehensive plan?
What did you mean?
So I'm like, did y'all look at the aspects of the strategic land use plan that drew things out longer than expected, and say like, okay, well,
yes,
the community maybe wasn't happy with this, or that we could have done approached this aspect of planning in a more holistic way.
Yeah.
So are some of those like lessons learned being applied to that?
Yeah, that's one of the reasons we have learned, which is a good thing too. I mean, there's always lessons.
Always room.
Definitely. So it's good for us, and then to hear more from the population, the residents, and whoever else. And so we want to have the rest of the regional comp plan, even be a better product than we had envisioned, some time ago. And so, yeah, definitely, and we have made connections with more people, with different groups, and that's good. Learning, there are groups out there, since they were not quite active, even some of the more organized groups, but then we know, okay, they might not be interested, but let them know in case they are. Yeah.
Would you say though that the defining the process for the rest of this project, the whole land use plan?
Yeah.
That are we consulting the county on the process because of the misunderstandings perhaps or miscommunication about what the process was with the strategic land use? So we're now making sure that we're all on the same page of, hey, this is the process, what input do you have before going forward? Is that, or would you normally, as you start this process at this stage, consult the county on what the process should be? I'm trying to kind of get a chicken and egg situation going.
Yeah. Some time ago, when we started the regional comp plan process, we consulted county administration, kept them apprised what our process was going to be like. Usually, for planning, there's certain basic, planning process, as you probably know. And so we were kind of going with that really standard planning steps process. And so it just so happened that because of development pressure, which we all have been witnessing, so we understand there's needs to look at the land use issues in the future plan for land uses sooner than 3 years later, because the city and the town got their own comprehensive plan updates, and that's will be later. And so while we are start working on the regional comprehensive plan, we recognize the needs from working with our partners. And so in going back to what I said earlier, we don't want to plan for a donut hole. We really look at the whole county as a whole. I mean, really, it's not urban versus rural and vice versa. So we really, from a planning standpoint, we should look at the whole picture because there are interactions, as what Mayor Johansson, noted earlier. I mean, there's interaction. People come, there are people living in the urban area who ride their bikes for recreation, for health, and other things. So they would rural area. So there's lots of interaction that should be trying to get, look at as a whole. So when we got to a point where we had to decide, should we as an offshoot of the regional comp plan process and take up this strategic land use plan while we have meeting the areas that we received demand proposals more than 5-6 years ago. Then really the plans that was done, the regional comp plan or the individual city and town comprehensive plans were not really anticipating that much going on. And so yeah, it makes sense. And that's why we have that offshoot. And so, but that also is actually still following this basic standard planning process that we, many of us who went to planning school for get to learn. So, but there are things, every community is different, right? Every county, town, city, villages, they're different. There's different characteristics. So we have to take all those into consideration. So for the strategic land use plan, the process actually is about the same. But should we do certain things, time-wise? Should we do more, say, the public engagement sooner or different geography? Because different people have different interests. I mean, you all know that. And so we took all those into consideration and apply what we have learned into the broader process. Yeah. So the process keeps us the same. I mean, if I'm saying goals and objectives, right? Data, I don't have to twist the choir. We have the data collection, data analysis, looking at different alternatives, preferred ones, and actions, recommendations, and monitoring and implementation. But I hope we all, it's not like losing time. But then we gain actually lessons, learn, and also recognize some of the issues from the additional time we spend on the strategic land use plan, and how can we make the regional comp plans even a more fruitful, more thoughtful, and also more productive, more meaningful product at the end. Really, I mean, we always, on our mind, we have representations from the rural community, or the rural part of the county, because the regional comp plan is, we recognize this a large area that's outside the urban areas too. So it'll be a good project. And yeah, I don't want to take up a lot of time. Just recognizing a lot of changes or factors that we do, staff, with great team, working together. This is not an easy project, but then it's working together with our partners and our stakeholders. We really, I mean, the end result is for our MCRPC staff standpoint is to really have a product that a work plan that will be carried in the next 5-10 years for the benefit of the whole region. Really, that's our goal.
Thank you.
Yeah. Sorry.
I have one last question. It's just a clarification. Under the monthly progress report, the working on the first draft on the comprehensive plan website is working on the first draft of the website.
First, we have we start thinking. We plan ahead, and Anthony can add a bit more, and the other. We have actually our whole team contribute in different ways. One of the things we start thinking is, okay, communication, public engagement is very important. So what are different ways to communicate and have the feedback? It has to be a two-way communication, it cannot be one way. And so Anthony and start thinking, okay, website, how do we design the website, for example, and I'll let him to expand a little bit more on that. But that's something, one of the things that we are working
It's
on.
okay. I just need clarification for like if it's the website that's getting.
Yeah,
work
I can
or
elaborate on that.
Yeah.
A couple of these. So for the website, a lot of stuff for comprehensive plans is pretty cookie cutter throughout most communities. Obviously, the community is different, but like a comprehensive plan is a comprehensive plan. Nowadays, most of them have a website attached to them as the planning process goes on. That's what we're working on now. A lot of the stuff, we're trying to nail down some timeline stuff and get everybody on the same page, but there's still a lot of stuff behind the scenes that we can work on to be ready for when we have the consensus. So we're working on those now. And to answer your question about talking to the county admin, yes, to both of them, right? This would be the time to go and talk to them to get their input, but also we're talking to them to make sure that we're on the same page from the lessons learned from the sludge. So it's both of those initial questions of, is this the regular time or are we kind of playing catch up? I would say it's a little bit of both of that. So that's where we're at.
Thank you.
Yeah, and respecting what you said about time, what I'd like to say is for the commissioners, if there's a specific deliverable or topic that you want to see on the public agenda underneath the comprehensive plan, just to like let Ray or I know, and we can certainly add that for the next meeting, and the ad hoc is welcome as well, but for us to better plan, certainly welcome to entertain that. So this is going to be important moving forward for the rest of the year, so, and beyond probably. So anything else on the regional comprehensive plan before we move on? Thank you, Ray. Thank you, Anthony.
Thank you.
All right, and so I know Vice Chair Roser wanted to maybe share a little bit about the demographic study. Maybe you already have with respect to the Unit 5 study. Was there anything else you wanted to add on that?
Yeah, I'd say the main takeaway is that the growth is expected on the east side of Bloomington Normal, so north of the Benjamin School District and the subdivisions that are kind of going in there. So that's where we will see potential growth. We just kind of have a shifting of where, as neighborhoods change, as, it was once a neighborhood where you had lots of young families, all of a sudden now is maybe no longer a neighborhood that has lots of young families. So as that happens, your need for seats moves around the community, and sometimes that then involves busing people, but further or moving people around. But we certainly do have a lot of recommendations coming out. I think February 19th is the date that we have a online meeting scheduled from the consultant that we're using, Proper GI out of Ohio, that will present proposals. Right now, we've just got on the planet, we have like a million different things that we're looking at, lots of different options. As we weigh just different options, it's funny because you look at, okay, well, this particular solution could solve transportation, but then you look at the impact on, but what does that do to bilingual education? Or what does that do to special education? Or what does that do to, so what is good for one solution isn't always good for everything. So you're just kind of weighing all the different scenarios and trying to land on a set of recommendations that does all of the meets the objectives to the best possible level, but certainly no perfect option. So, but yeah, we see the growth on that side over there.
And what will the school board do with those proposals? Yes.
So the consultant will come out with some recommendations. So those will present to the public, and then we'll collect public feedback. And based upon the public feedback, there may be some revisions to those recommendations before it goes to the board for vote in April, I think. Don't we have to look at this? It's a lot intense. So there's just, and I'd say right now there's just a lot of, there's been some rumors of things that have been talked about. And I would just add that there's just been a lot of things talked about. Some from very minor to very ambitious, shall we call it. I think, it's the anxiety of not knowing that we're seeing build, and that's just a tough piece. But until we can comfortably land on what those scenarios are that meet kind of the best needs overall, it's just kind of important to keep them all kind of under wraps. So, sorry.
When you talk about Benjamin, are you talking about east of Swan Barnes?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. There's an 85-page report on the Unit 5 website that has the demographic study projections, but there's also an executive summary to that if you want.
I will check that out. Appreciate it.
Thanks so much. Certainly sounds there's a lot of parallels and overlap with the regional comprehensive plan, so appreciate it. All right, any other items for discussion or information? With that, I would entertain a motion to adjourn if there's nothing further.
So moved.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion passes. We are adjourned at 4:58.
What a great meeting. Thank you everyone for your work.
Yeah.